Hello everyone, you reached True Crime's coldest winter, and I'm Winter. I'm here to talk about the true crime cases that are absolutely shocking to me. I first wanted to say that I'm really enjoying doing these videos. I should probably invest in maybe a microphone. Whenever I rewatch my videos, I have a hard time. I have to turn the volume up extra loud, so I'm going to have to get a microphone of some sort. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. So I'm going to just go directly into the case at hand. So this case, I didn't think I would ever cover this case because this is one of those cases where I assume that everyone would, this would be one of the first ones people would talk about. Chris Watts, Casey Anthony, and common popular cases that a lot of true crime people they cover. I try to do the opposite of that. I do the ones that people don't really cover. But shockingly, this one that I'm going to talk about, I've only seen it one time, and other than that I haven't noticed anyone else really talking about it. And to me, I think it's just this case is so, of course I've seen a million times worse, but sometimes it's the little things that just make the biggest effect, and this one is just one of those. It doesn't happen, you know, it just doesn't happen. When I do my stories, I'll let you know the difference between my opinion and a fact, but this is just my opinion. I feel like this person just had a really hard time with rejection. I think it stemmed from years of being an introvert. They just felt like, you know what, I'm gonna save that for my afterthoughts. Yeah, I'm gonna save it for afterthoughts. And I'm going to jump right into the story, and I want you guys to trust me that this is going to be an interesting one. So let's have a go.
Don't play no games, no, I fight back. Every fight I swear, baby, I don't wanna go. Baby, I don't wanna go. Every fight I swear, baby, I don't wanna go. Baby, I don't wanna go. Only gone for a day, but I need you. I got 100 reasons why I always miss you. I be feeling these vibes when I'm with you. I be playing this song when I miss you. Only gone for a day, but I need you. I got 100 reasons why I always miss you. I be feeling these vibes when I'm with you. I be playing this song when I miss you.
Stephen Mark McDaniel. I want to say it's spelled Stephen, but people were calling him Steven. So I don't know if it's Stephen or Steven, but I'm gonna say Steven just like everybody else because I'm a sheep. Okay? Just kidding. So Steven, of his time, was 25 years old. He was born in Georgia, a town called Lilburn. Sorry, Lilburn. He was born in 1989. His parents' names are Glenda and Mark McDaniel. They both worked in a factory at some point, but his father, who had a PhD, he did eventually just become a house painter. And then his mom, they both worked. Steven's parents. I might go from Steven to Stephen. I'm not sure. I won't find out until I'm editing, so if I do, it's the same person. His parents worked day and night, and they hardly had enough time to tend to their son Steven. Steven went to a local high school. He allegedly would bully girls there. He was introverted and very, you know, a lot of people would say that he was bizarre or strange. He just wasn't, he didn't fit in a sense, you know. But he ended up graduating, and he went into Mercer University School of Law. He went to law school, and he graduated from law school. Oh, hi, kitty. Hey. Blue wants to say hi. Hello. I love her so much. Stephen also worked as a law clerk at the district attorney's office on the prosecution side. He actually wanted to become a criminal attorney at some point, so he said. So on June 30th in 2011, Stephen happened to be looking outside of his window And he noticed a group of college-age students standing in front of his neighbor, Lauren Giddens, sorry, Lauren Giddings' apartment. He saw that they were letting themselves in with a key. Stephen and Lauren, they lived one flat across the hallway from the other. They lived very close to each other. Lauren, she was also 25 at the time. She also attended Mercer Law School and graduated in May. And she was actually prepping for the bar exam that was to be held in August of 2011. She would isolate herself and just study for days on end. You wouldn't hear from her. And family and friends completely understood that. Lauren had, okay, Kitty, sorry. Okay, she wants some love. She'd recently celebrated her sister's wedding, and she's naturally a lively and vibrant person. But she seemed to be very troubled during the past year, expressing to her friends multiple times of her suspicion that she was either being watched or that somebody had been inside of her apartment. There was a time when she was in town on a vacation. Then when she got back, she just felt like things had moved and rearranged. Something was off. It was her sixth sense, her third eye. It was her intuition telling her. None of her friends or family heard from her for 4 days. The last time that they saw her, she was hanging out with friends on June 25th in the evening, and she was hanging out with some friends, and that was the last time that anyone saw her. But they kind of left her alone because they thought she was studying. Like her family, definitely, they weren't alarmed. They thought that she was just studying more, and that's why no one heard from her. But the people from her university, her friends, they knew it was unusual. They were justifiably concerned for their friend. That's when they showed up to her apartment to look for her, and somebody had a spare key, so they were using it. And so when Stephen looked out of his window and he saw this, he decided to invite himself over there inside of the apartment, and he offered to help them to look for her. In the process, they noticed that Lauren's cell phone, her driver's license, and her passport were all inside of the apartment, and her car was parked out front. So something was strange, and they filed a missing person report that night. So the next morning, a search party commenced. Police came out, they started canvassing the surrounding areas, they began conducting interviews with neighbors and classmates, just doing what they usually do, law enforcement, detectives. And one of the people that they interviewed was obviously Stephen McDaniel. He was a classmate of hers and a neighbor, so of course they're gonna ask him questions. So they're at this apartment complex. It's early in the morning. Everybody is up in arms, searching for her. The local news station comes out. The word started to spread about her disappearance. And Stephen was just as helpful as could be. He was directly in the middle of it. He wanted to know what in the world happened to his neighbor. And so he was interviewed by one of the reporters. He appeared shocked, he appeared concerned, he appeared distraught, he appeared like he was really just, he had no clue what in the world could have happened. That's his friend. He wants to know, just like everybody else, what happened to her. And his demeanor and his reaction made it clear that he was not connected to Lauren's disappearance whatsoever. And there didn't seem to be any witnesses as to what had happened to her. During this time though, before the search was conducted, law enforcement did receive a tip from someone who knew someone who used to live with Stephen. His name is Matthew Garrison. So Matthew saw Stephen on the news, okay, talking to the news and saying, "Where's my friend? Don't know. I will do everything I can to help." Stephen offered up every smidgen of information that he ever knew about his neighbor, Lauren. And he offered it to the local news people. And so the friend, he saw this. And so he calls up a friend and he's just like, "Yo, this friend knew the law enforcement people." And he said that he remembered a conversation that he had with Stephen about if they could get away with murder, what how would you do it and what would you do? Stephen tells Matthew, I would take off their arms, their legs, their head, so no one could identify the body, and then dispose of the body parts. That's what Stephen said that he would do. Dismember the body so identification couldn't be revealed. It wasn't destroy the body, it was just to merely discard of it, hoping that it would just go away, I guess. I don't know. But listening to him, the fact that he, afterthoughts, I'm gonna save it for after. Matthew, he suggested that they should start looking into dumpsters for limbs or body parts, just in case, because that was something that they talked about, so it's a possibility. That is why they were there conducting the search, because of this tip. Law enforcement did find remains, and Stephen was unaware that a part of Lauren's body had been discovered as he's talking to the reporter. The reporter disclosed to him that law enforcement recovered a body in the parking lot of the building, and that there was a torso that was wrapped in plastic, and it was found inside of a trash can located next to the apartment complex. And this was on live TV. This is the first time he's catching wind to this piece of information, and Stephen lost it.
Saturday, the last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out, and no one's heard from her since.
What kind of person was she? What did you see her?
She's as nice as can be. Very personable, very much a people person.
Do you know anybody any enemies she might have had, somebody that might want to hurt her?
No, we just don't know where she is.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of, I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body?
Had you seen anything there? Had you seen anything there? We don't know if this is the same person. You know what I mean? They took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. So that's why we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
They said that she was over there in the morning, and then that was the last time that anyone we've been able to find out from had seen her.
She hadn't mentioned what she was going to do that day or anything?
Joe, he got onto her computer last night to see if she had said anything. She'd sent an email out to some people that afternoon talking about going out to eat or something. And the last thing that there was an email that she sent out. Someone had tried to break in on Thursday night, and she was afraid to stay in there. But no, if she had, I could have done something. I could have lent her a handgun. I've got a little handgun that I have for defense. And
she could have slept over or something.
Yeah, something. If she was afraid in her apartment.
So the investigation switched from being a missing persons to being a murder investigation. Stephen had already been established as a person of interest by law enforcement at this time. Stephen was not aware of this, but they did ask if he could go into the police station to have an interview, a formal interview outside of the local news reporting interview. And this was about 11:50 a.m. Although Stephen was telling them, hey, he offered to help in any way that he could, he still came off fidgety and apprehensive pretty much the entire time. The first thing that caught law enforcement's attention was the fact that without being prompted or asked, Stephen had just immediately started to separate himself from Lauren's disappearance and now murder. So during the interview, Stephen asserted that he was a virgin and he was saving himself for marriage. He just immediately went into just this mode of trying to prove himself innocent without even being prompted that he was guilty, if that makes sense. And as he's talking, the detective noticed scratch marks on his face and on his stomach. The detectives are asking him how he got these marks on himself. Stephen said that he got them because he did it to himself while he was sleeping in his sleep. It was at this point that law enforcement found this reasoning to be complete BS. And it was at this point that Stephen unknowingly and unwittingly he went from just being a person of interest to the prime suspect. And so the police asked if they could have permission to search his apartment. And with this, Stephen became unhinged. He started sweating profusely. It was said that he drank up to 10 bottles of water, but he reluctantly accepted the request to search his apartment. So he was transported back to his apartment complex with 4 other investigators, which must have been just absolutely intimidated by just all means. So when they got to his apartment, they immediately saw he had a collection of swords. Stephen had a collection of guns. He had a collection of toilet paper rolls, a stockpile, as if he was expecting for an apocalypse to happen. And they also found a mask made out of a woman's underwear and condoms. And so with this, a law enforcement asked, because he made it clear in the interrogation that he was a virgin, and for whatever reason he had to get that off of his chest. So the police are like, if you're a virgin, why would you have condoms? If you're saving yourself a marriage, why would you have condoms in your apartment? That's when Stephen said, okay, I stole them from another apartment. Okay, I stole them from another apartment. And with this, law enforcement arrested him for probable cause, and for burglary. I mean, how shameful would that be to get arrested for stealing condoms? Moving on. So they placed Stephen in handcuffs. They brought him back to the police station, where they interviewed him again 12 hours later. This is at 11 p.m. And during the investigation, I mean, this is probably it was a 2-hour-long investigation, or an interrogation that I found online via YouTube. And it was the most frustrating interview. This was the most frustrating interrogation I think I've ever witnessed. I wanted to punch this guy just square in his face. I do apologize for coming off that way, but it's so true. This guy was making me want to tear my hair out. I mean,
do you have a girlfriend?
No.
Did you think Lauren was your girlfriend?
No.
You said you didn't have any other cars, right?
Right.
Well, why would everybody you went to school with for the last 3 and 4 years? Any brothers or sisters?
My sister lives in Tucker.
Georgia?
Yes.
What's up with the pair of underwear that was in your apartment? That was like a mask. It was cut out like a mask. You cut underwear out that looked like a mask?
No.
How many guns did you have in your apartment?
3.
What are they? Do you know what they are?
A rifle.
What kind of rifle? Did you have any other knives in the house?
Yes.
That I didn't see, because you didn't show me no other knives. That's the only ones you showed me. What other knives did I miss?
There's a pocket knife that's on the table.
Are you a knife collector or a knife person, or
No.
you just like knives?
I used to collect swords.
I mean, do you know your swords?
Yes.
I mean, to sell and trade swords?
No. Yes.
Is that how Lauren looked with the long hair the last time you seen her?
Yes.
Or that's how she looks?
Yes.
Who do you think took Lauren away?
I don't know.
Well, I need your help. I know you're smarter, okay? I know you have an observation you can tell me. What do you think happened to her?
I think someone took her.
How do you think somebody would take her? If somebody did take her
When she was running.
out back to her apartment.
I don't know.
know there was a body found in the trash can next to the apartments.
Yes.
You do know that. And it's a female, white female's body. Right there. Right next to y'all's apartment. Feet within from her apartment. Won't know 100% sure it's Lauren. But we're pretty confident it is. We're waiting for some tests to be done. To be 100% sure. I mean, who would do something to somebody and throw them in a trash can?
I don't know.
I'm asking for your advice or your observation. Who in your complex would do something like that? You live over there for 3 years. Tonight's the first night I think I've ever been over there. In your expert opinion, of all your knowledge of going through law school and all that, who in that complex do I need to talk to?
I don't know.
No names come to mind. You got on the news tonight and told everybody that you know. Think you're gonna be able to walk down the street tomorrow and nobody bother you? Think nobody's gonna come over and knock on your door to see if you want to talk to the media again?
I don't know.
Oh, they're gonna be over there, brother. So this little act that you're doing right now ain't working with me, okay? Because you didn't have no problem talking to the media. So you just snap out of it and tell me what the hell happened. And everybody in Macon knows you knows because you got your sorry ass on the news and told everybody. Just give me one reason.
To have?
Why? Does it make you feel important?
No.
Are you a big guy because you got a weapon?
No.
Do you even know how to use it?
Yes.
I need you to tell me what you want me to tell her mother. And then I won't ask you another thing. I'm not going to tell her mother that you don't know, because her mother saw you on the news tonight. And she cried all the way down to Macon. Because you had the balls to get on the news and tell everybody everything. You didn't have no problem talking in the news when they asked you questions. Where's Lauren?
I don't know.
Yes, you do know. You do know. You do know. You know. You know. You do know. And you want me to sit there and tell them that you don't know. Is that what you want me to tell them? Because you're all over the news. You sure stood out there and ran your mouth to the news media. But now you're going to get out here and you don't fucking know. You know. You're just a sorry piece of shit that don't give a fuck. Right?
No.
Well, why'd you tell the media everything? Do you need to see what you told the media today? It was on the 11 o'clock news. Well, I'm asking you. Tell me. I want to know.
I don't know where she is.
That ain't what you told the media. You didn't stand in front of that camera and say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
You're lying, Stephen. I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell it. I wanted to be here with you to go through that process because I know you're not a monster, man. I know you're not a bad guy. You're just a hard-working student trying to pass a bar exam, ain't you? You ain't got a lot of support from your family, do you?
Yes.
You do? A lot of people can't say that. And the fact that you do have support from your family should make things easier, because your family wants to feel like they've raised somebody that tells the truth and is honest,
You
right?
did today, right?
Yes.
So you saw us out there when we knocked on your door. She's not there. You know, I need your help in finding her. So if you had this case, you wouldn't be able to solve it, is that what you're saying? Because you're not smart enough to solve it?
I don't know.
Or you think you're smart enough to be a detective?
I don't know.
No?
You gotta be killing me, Stephen. Stephen,
So,
listen to me. We're real people, and we're here to talk to you. I like to think that we're friends, okay? Friends communicate back and forth. The only thing you said is yes or no, and I don't know. Okay? It makes me feel like you're treating me like you don't like me. What'd you do to Lauren?
I didn't do anything.
You saw Lauren last night, though? Yesterday?
No,
What time was it that she went out to do her laundry?
I don't know.
Where were you at yesterday?
At home?
What'd you do at home? You used to watch her come in and out of her apartment, didn't you?
No.
I mean, then how were y'all friends? If me and you friends, we live next door to each other. Every time I look out the window, see, oh, there's my buddy going in. Because we friends. I'm gonna pay attention to when you come in and out. Didn't you just tell me that y'all were friends?
Yes.
But you didn't pay attention to when she came in and out?
No.
Steven, you're lying. Now you're lying. You're just lying. That's a lie. You ever see her come in and out of her apartment?
Yes.
You did? When was the last time?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Like last week maybe? Steven, you understand that everything that you're saying here doesn't make any sense at all. None. None. You totally contradict everything that relates to human behavior. We have skills to be able to observe things, to hear things, to see things. There are natural things out there that draw our attention every day. Such as when you're driving down the road and somebody hits the horn, you look around. You know what I'm saying? That's just a natural reaction. If you're sitting in your living room, you hear the door slam next to you, you automatically think, my neighbor's home. Right? You're telling me that those kind of things don't happen in your life.
You asked if I watched. I didn't watch.
Have you noticed that she's came in and out of her house in the last week or two?
I don't remember.
What do you remember, Steve?
The last time I saw her was 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Where at?
She was going out running when I was coming in.
Where were you coming in from? Lauren's missing. This pretty little girl right here, your neighbor, she's missing. And you feel bad about it. I can tell you haven't slept much, have you, in the last few days, have you?
No.
Like something's weighing on your mind, ain't it?
We were looking for Lauren.
You started looking for Lauren yesterday,
Yes.
but you haven't slept in several days, have you?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Earlier when I talked to you, you said you hadn't slept in days, that this morning was the first time you was able to get any sleep, was this morning, for a little bit.
No.
Yes, that's what you said. That's what you told me. So I asked you, well, if you haven't been able to sleep in several days, what have you been doing? Studying? And you said, yeah, studying. You don't remember that?
No.
What I want you to do, I'm going to ask you this question. I want you to describe to me how you feel right now. You don't know how to answer that with a yes or no, do you?
I don't know what's going on.
How many times have you been in her apartment with her hanging out?
I don't know.
What'd y'all talk about?
News.
The news? Okay. Earlier you was telling me something about you fixed her computer before.
I couldn't fix it.
You couldn't fix it? What was wrong with it?
I don't remember.
How long ago was that?
Around graduation.
Well, how long ago was that?
Middle of May.
Middle of May?
How many times you gonna say I don't know? How many times you gonna say it? When are you gonna say I remember? I don't want to remember what happened to her about it. You're just saying I don't know.
So you bought 3 guns that you've never shot.
Yes.
Why?
To have.
For what?
To have.
For what? I'm asking for what? Why do you want to have them? What makes, did they give you, I mean, tell me why it's important to you to have 3 guns. That's an easy question. Come on, talk to me, buddy. Me and you talked all day today. We ain't had a problem communicating. Why is it important for you to have 3 guns? Do you not know?
No.
So they kept Stephen in jail. The investigators continued to do their investigative work. In the following days, they did find a hacksaw in Stephen's apartment, which turned out to have Lauren's DNA on it. And they also found a master key to Lauren's apartment. This was also in Stephen's possession. They also found a pair of Lauren's panties, and as they dug even deeper, because this is what they do once you are privy to something like this, then you're screwed. Anything that you've ever done, whether it relates to what you did or not, is going to be put out there in the open. So, but they also found several blog posts written by Stephen that described torture and violence towards women. They found a flash drive of Lauren's personal photographs in Stephen's possession. They also went through his internet search history, and they found that he was a frequent visitor of Lauren's social media pages. They even saw that he was looking up violent pornography while looking at Lauren's pictures at the same time. So Stephen was held in the Bibb County Jail for 10 months, and there he earned the nickname Hacksaw. And during this time, law enforcement collected more than 200 pieces of evidence, and they also conducted dozens of interviews. It wasn't until April 21st, 2012, and this whole time, Stephen was adamant that he had nothing to do with Lauren's death. This guy didn't budge. He did not crack. But then he confessed, finally, April 21st, probably because of all of the evidence that was found against him. You know, it comes to a point where when you're that deep in, they'll throw the death penalty because, you know, when you kill someone, you never know. And so they might say, you know, you'll get the death penalty if you just confess, because look at all this evidence that we have. Come on. Do you really think that a jury of 12 is going to deny that you had anything to do with this? You're going to get the death penalty. So just admit it. And then this way, we don't have to go through a trial. We could spare the pain, the torture of everything. And so that's probably what he did at this point. But he did receive life in prison, and it said that he is at the Valdosta State Prison, and he won't be considered for parole until 2041, which many people are saying that he's not going to ever get out, but you never know, you know, I mean, you never know. So it turns out that Stephen was obsessed with Lauren. He asked Lauren out on a date, and she had declined because she was already seeing someone else. She had a boyfriend named David Van Diver. She just couldn't accept Stephen's offer to go out on a date. Stephen detailed how he stole the master key that opened all the apartments in the building from the storeroom. And so that he would break into her apartment several times just to look around. He would even film her as she left and returned to her apartment all hours of the day through her second story window. And he would use a camera, but this camera, he attached a long stick to it so that he could be more inconspicuous in his efforts to spy on her. So he's just holding this camera. He's just like, oh, I'm gonna, you know. He tried to delete the pictures that he took spying on Lauren on his camera, but they were recovered and used against him. And he was also charged with possession of child pornography. Lauren was not a child, so we don't know what children that he had inside of his apartment. I don't know. Am I surprised? No. So Stephen stalked Lauren. And on June 26, 2011, Sunday morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, Stephen snuck into her apartment for the last time. She was sleeping inside of her bedroom. He creeped inside of her room and the floorboard started to creak. So this is what woke her up. And when she woke up and saw that somebody was in her apartment, she panicked. She sat up in bed and she told him to leave. She didn't know it was her neighbor at this point in time. So Stephen was wearing a mask and gloves. He was wearing a mask using the underwear that he stole from her apartment. So he was using Lauren's underwear that he cut out into a mask and was wearing it to go in there to assault her. And so he pounced on top of her and he grabbed her throat. She was fighting back and they ended up tumbling out of bed and falling onto the floor. And of course Lauren, she tried to escape his grasp. She tried to escape and she pulled off the mask off of his face. And then that's when she realized he was attacking her. And she just begged him to stop. But he didn't. He proceeded to strangle her for 15 minutes until she stopped moving. Lauren did put up a fight. She clawed his face, his chest, but she was overpowered and died of asphyxiation. He then dragged her body to the bathtub and went back to his apartment where he stayed throughout the day. This is as if nothing happened. So poor Lauren, she's in the bathtub dead. Like, people are thinking she's studying. So she hangs out with her friend on June 25th. And the next morning, she's unbelievable. So Stephen returns back to the apartment that evening, and that's where he dismembered her body in the bathtub. So the same place that he stole the master key from, the stock room, the apartment complex, he also stole a hacksaw and he dismembered her body into 5 pieces, just like he said he would do if he were to ever commit a murder a few years prior. He placed each piece of her body. He cut off her head, her arms, her legs, and her torso. So he had 6 pieces, but I think a source said 5 pieces. It had to have been 6. And so he put each of the pieces inside of black trash bags, and then he disposed of each trash bag. He disposed of each part into separate trash bags around the campus because he did this strategically. He thought that the garbage person was going to be picking up all of the garbage, and so he thought that would be perfect because then they'd have time to pick up the garbage. And he cut up the mask and the gloves that he used in the commission of the crime, and he flushed it down the toilet. So he thought that he committed the perfect crime. There was a glitch in the picking up of the garbage. Something had happened that day to where the garbage had been picked up fully, as to why that plan didn't go through anyway. So Stephen had a genuine reaction to Lauren's disappearance, but it was disguised as another. His reaction was that of fear and shock, but it was because a substantial piece of evidence had been discovered when they found Lauren's torso in the garbage. But he played it off as if there were feelings of sorrow over the loss of his supposed friend. He acted like a distraught neighbor, and he portrayed all of this on national TV, only to find out that he was the one that was responsible for her murder. Lauren didn't have any proof of the danger that she was in. All she had were convictions, but they weren't strong enough when it was most needed. But her convictions were not strong enough when it was needed the most. The rest of her remains were never recovered. afterthoughts is that, so for one thing, I'm gonna say that, I don't know, I feel like he's done this before. I truly feel like there is a huge possibility this guy has done this before. But then again, maybe not, because a lot of times what happens is people will try to find other missing people around that area. The way that he didn't crack, he didn't break, his personality is very timid and meek. So the fact that he could sit there during a interrogation for hours and never crack, all he said was yes, no, and I don't know the entire time. It's like, but he's also very intelligent. He went through law school, but also goes to show you that, like, just because you're in law school or just have a law degree or whatever, it doesn't make you smart. I've had people do this. They like, oh, you should be smart because you're not. Oh, you're in law school, so you should know. I don't really like when people do that. I feel like that is just a way of, it's very diminishing. It doesn't make somebody feel like, oh yeah, I'm big and bad. Like, for me anyway, it makes you feel like, no, I'm not that smart. Like, you can be stupid as hell and still make it into law school. It's not that, it's law school is not about being smart. It's about being consistent. And this guy, Steven, he was consistently yes, no, I don't know, the entire time. Just when they thought that he was about to break, they used every single tactic that they could on this man. He never once cracked. So that was very consistent of him. You don't have to, but they're in there like, you're a lawyer, you should know, you're in law school, you're smart, you know what you're doing. Oh, I get it, but it doesn't mean anything. Going to law school does not mean that you are going to get away with murder. And but anyway, it does take a certain mental strength. So I guess I shouldn't be too surprised that he didn't crack whatsoever, because law, like, it doesn't take like smartness, but it does take strength and persistence and resilience. So I mean, I don't know, it's whatever. People who are in law school don't just stand out as like some incredible people who are just not like everybody else. Law students, they're just like everybody else. They're just like you, they're just like me, the person, works at anywhere else. And very average, regular, schmegular, degular, everyday people go to law school and they complete law school. And just like the Steven guy, there is no specific motive for what he did, but it's speculated to be that law school's ending and Lauren was going to move on with her life, and Steven just didn't want that. I mean, this guy, he stalked her. He's a stalker, and this is a crime, but it also takes a lot of understanding outside of what it really is, because if you just think of a stalker, you're just thinking of somebody who is just calling you all the time, and it's like, but there's actually different ways to stalk, and there are certain ways that you can't stalk. Other people might not see it as stalking, but it actually is stalking. It's just so, he was talking about, oh, if I did this to get away with, I would do this to get away with a crime. But first of all, like, the way that he said that he would get away with it, it doesn't seem like he knew anything about forensics or anything about how to get away with a murder. I mean, he's like, dismember the body and dispose of the body, like, so that they wouldn't be identified. Like, that's not the way it works. So he's just, and another thing I wanted to mention, I thought it was quite interesting how Steven quickly admitted to stealing the condoms. That is just super embarrassing, and I feel like that was also a red flag, for the simple fact that I feel like if he didn't have anything to do with Lauren's disappearance and murder, I don't think he would have readily admitted to the fact that he stole condoms from other people's apartments. But the fact that he admitted it so quickly goes to show you that there was probably something else behind the scenes, that because the real crime that he committed was just so much deeper than merely stealing condoms. He's just like, yeah, forget it. Yeah, I stole the condoms. That was a red flag to me anyway. Maybe not to law enforcement, but I don't think somebody would readily admit to stealing condoms. It's just so embarrassing. Like, the whole thing is just so ridiculous and unfounded and just, but like I said, it sounds like it's ridiculous, but the crime of stalking is just so deep that if it's not monitored or discovered, yeah, something really crazy like this is bound to happen, and it will be like a shock, a surprise to everyone, because nobody knew what someone is doing behind the scenes. Lauren and Stephen were neighbors. Okay, so Lauren would go for jogs and she would go about her daily life literally without any flinch to any threat to her safety. Little did she know that the guy just down the way was watching her every single move, and it manifested itself in a huge way. So anyway, guys, I thought this was interesting, so I thought I would share it with my true crime community. I wanted to thank you guys so much for joining me today, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay blessed, and again, thank you for watching. Wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.
Every fight, I swear, baby, I don't wanna go. Baby, I don't wanna go. Only gone for a day, but I need you. I got 100 reasons why I always miss you. I be feeling these vibes when I'm with you. I be playing this song when I miss you. Only gone for a day, but I need you. I got 100 reasons why I always miss you. I be feeling these vibes when I'm with you. I be playing this song when I miss you. Yeah, yeah, when I miss you. Perfect, don't do too much or fall back. I'm a different breed, don't confuse that. Or you bound to do a couple double backs. Yeah, don't confuse that I love you. I just don't do all that tick for tack. I just want you to show that